CBSN New York.
Steve Overmyer here alongside the host of Fantasy BFFs on Fantasy Radio, Frank Stamfel, joining us. In fantasy baseball leagues, you're always looking to add players to your roster either via waiver wire or by trade. So let's take a closer look at some of the guys that you might want to try to add right now, or guys that you might want to move off of your team. Let's start with the hot players that you want to add. These guys you might have to add via trade, and I think this first guy that is hopefully available is owned in 97% of the league. So you're going to have to try to make a trade to get this guy.
Yeah, that's Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Indians. And, he was a first-round pick coming into the season. He was a top-5 pick. I took him as a top-5 pick in one of my fantasy baseball leagues, and he's been a huge disappointment for the most part until this point. You look at what he's done over the past month, Steve, and I'm starting to buy in a little bit. You look at that this past month again, and it's 316 batting average, 5 home runs, 22 runs scored, 22 RBIs, and I've dug a little bit deeper into the batted ball numbers here as well. 40% hard contact rate during this time, 42.8% fly ball rate. He's pulling the ball more. So whatever you're doing, Jose Ramirez, keep doing it. We know that he can be a league winner. We saw what he did last season: 39 home runs, 34 stolen bases. I think he's starting to heat up down the stretch here for fantasy baseball.
Well, now you're starting to see that MVP caliber player. At the very least, it's in the second half of the season you're starting to see that. And on top of that, he's got 20 stolen bases. I mean, this is a commodity that it's rarely used right now, it seems like, in baseball. So if you get someone that has that kind of pop, that kind of on-base percentage, and he steals a couple of bases for you, you know what? That's a guy that you might want to go out and get. The problem is, the guys that's going to be selling Jose Ramirez is probably going to be selling him at a little bit of a higher price, too. So that could be a bit of a problem trying to find someone to match him up with. Now, the way that I decided to go for the hot player is going to be at catcher, because week in and week out, we are dying. Unless you have Gary Sanchez on your roster or Yasmani Grandal, you really most likely aren't happy with your catcher. So you might as well get someone that's hot. And maybe there's no hitter in baseball that's hotter right now than Travis d'Arnaud. Travis d'Arnaud, over the last 7 games, has 4 home runs and is hitting .440. This guy is only owned in 29% of the league, so you can go pick him up right now at a waiver. But what I like most about this is, because catcher is the bar for good catching is so low, if you can go out and get someone that is streaky like this, maybe he's only on your roster for a couple of weeks. But in those 2 weeks, look at what he can do for you.
Absolutely, Steve. And a lot of people play in 2 catcher leagues when it comes to rotisserie leagues. So if you can get Travis d'Arnaud as your second catcher there where you're trying to stream him, I was actually streaming him when he had that 3 home run game against the New York Yankees. So I got a little bit lucky there. But, at this point in the season, you're trying to win 1 week at a time. Everyone always wants to ask, well, who can I pick up rest of season? You don't have to look at it that way. Let's try and win 1 week at a time. And right now, Travis d'Arnaud is one of the hottest hitting catchers in the league.
Those are some of the guys that are trending up, but there's plenty of guys that are trending down. I mean, obviously, every player goes through cold stretches, but the guy that I want off my team, if I have him on any of my teams right now, I want Kyle Seager off this team. I mean, for the past couple of years, we have been waiting for this guy to get healthy. This year, he was a little lighter. We thought that he was going to maybe take the ball to the opposite field more. But he's not done any of that. He's hitting a .191. His strikeout rate of 21.4% is the highest of his career. And even though he's only owned in 14% of the leagues, if you see him on the waiver wire right now and you're thinking to yourself, I want Seager on my roster, don't bother. He is not worth the roster spot in my mind.
Yeah, he's not the Kyle Seager of years past, Steve. I look at what he's trying to do the past couple of seasons. He's been trying to lift the ball more. We keep hearing in baseball about launch angle, launch angle. Everybody wants to hit fly balls and try and hit home runs. Some hitters are not meant to do that. And I look at Kyle Seager as one of those people who's, when he's trying to lift the ball, a lot of those are just turning into easy fly ball outs. So I think he has to raise that launch angle a little bit, go back to his roots where he was hitting a lot of line drives and, going the opposite way for more batting average. I just don't think it's going to come unless he starts to bring that launch angle down a little bit.
This is why we dive into the deeper numbers, the analytics of the sport. Exit velocity is another super important mile per hour that you're measuring in this one, and the exit velo of a guy that you don't want is middle of the road, Vlad Guerrero Jr.
And I never thought we would get to this point, especially after that home run derby, right?
Absolutely.
Everybody wants a piece of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I will preface this by saying, if you play in keeper or dynasty leagues, you do not want to get rid of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because he will be a stud at some point. I just don't think that point is going to be this season. You look at the average exit velocity that you mentioned, Steve, just 88.7 miles per hour. That's right around league average. His zone percentage this year, I find this incredible, 36%. League average is 42%. So what that tells me is opposing pitchers are scared to pitch to Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
Or he's chasing and they're throwing outside just to see how far he's going to try to reach.
For reference, Mike Trout sees pitches inside the strike zone 39.8% of the time. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is nearly 4 percentage points lower than that. So it's either he's chasing pitches or he's not seeing pitches to hit. But whatever it is, his batting average is just 245. His StatCast expected batting average is just 255. So I don't know that it's going to get much better this season, Steve. But for years to come, I do think Vladimir Guerrero is going to be a stud. In redraft leagues, seasonal leagues, if you could sell him now, I think you could get a lot based off that name value.
Okay, all right. Now, that's a good sell possibility right there in Vlad Guerrero Jr. All right, so those are the hot and the cold guys, but make sure you check out our suggestions for streamers this next week. For Frank Stanfill, I'm Steve Overmyer. Take care.